Well, isn't this a beautiful day? Huh? I have friends that are traveling through New England. They're taking an extended trip with their little trailer, and they've got this app. They're sending pictures. Waze app, I think it's called. And so you can share pictures and such with a group of people. And so they've been sending the pictures of the fall colors, you know, back in Vermont and in the New England area and so forth. And one of the pictures, and I have seen this myself too in traveling back in that area, it looks really strange, but you see this whole countryside of this beautiful green. There, it's the green still. One lone tree, right smack dab in the middle, is gloriously adorned with the orange and the yellow and all of that. And it just is so striking, because you just go, what the heck, you know? How did that guy get the message? You know, nobody else is even catching up to it, you know? And so here in San Diego, we don't have that drastic a change in our seasons, fall season. But guess what? It's happy fall, because yes, this is the first day we had the fall equinox. Yay! So in San Diego, we're doing it the way we do it here. And I think that just like those group of trees that are being themselves in all their splendor, all that life force energy is coming up through them and displaying through them, each of them doing it in their own way. I like to make that analogy that we too are just like those trees. We have that same divine energy flowing through us, coming out and expressing as us in our own perfect and unique way. And I bet you that some of us, in our recollection, if we look back over our history, can look and say, gosh, and I remember that time when I stuck out like a sore thumb, just like that one tree, you know? And that's fantastic. I mean, that's what we're here for, is to know that, guess what? You know, I'm an individual expressing this divine being through me. And nobody else is going to do it the way I'm doing it. Nobody else is going to have the same take on it. That's what we're made of and from and as. We need to remember that, because we kind of get into this herd mentality that we, you know, want to be like everybody else. That's not happening, guys. That's not the way we're made. And so I wanted to share with you, I picked off my shelf, my Dare to Dream book. This is one that's very close to my heart, and I just rediscovered it not too long ago when I was going through some boxes after my move, which was 3 years ago. And I'm so happy that I found it again. It's a book of poetry and of illustrations. Can you see it? This is called The Medieval Drummer. As an inspired dreamer, like this spry fellow, we may be marching to the beat of our own drum. The path of creating our dreams to come true is not always a linear one. Sometimes the road turns in unexpected ways as we begin cultivating our talents. You may be judged harshly and often for being unconventional. This can create many doubts, which give nourishment to the yeah buts that live inside our head. Yeah buts is another one of the poems in this book. Remembering that truth is different for each person, you can forge ahead with confidence, knowing that your path will be revealed beneath your feet, and it will be the right path for you. March onward in your light, and you will inspire others with your strength and conviction. So I just thought I'd want to share that with you this morning, because all of us are going through our own individual things. And as we're coming together in this month of September, we're looking at the basics of the science of mind. And today's topic is called subjective thought patterns. And this is one of the basics of our science of mind teaching, though it is a subtle one. Just like San Diego's change of the fall season is a subtle one, this subjective thought patterns is subtle. It's not obvious. Why? Because it's subjective. It's underneath. It's in the subconscious realm. And so we're not consciously aware of it, but oh my goodness, does it have power? And I want you to recognize the last words, subjective thought patterns. The patterns is important because patterns are the things that we do repeatedly. It's a habit. And so our subjective thought patterns are what is running the show, even though our conscious mind thinks it is. And if you're wondering what is going on in my subconscious thought patterns, if I'm not aware of them, how do I know what they are? Look around at your life. Ooh. As within, so without. What is going on within you is what is being demonstrated and produced and evidenced in the exterior of the conditions and experiences of your life. If you like it, wonderful. If you don't like it, wonderful. Because we have the ability to what? Make changes, exactly. Change your thinking, change your life. Absolutely. Now remember, when we do this process of looking around and we note, ooh, that's interesting. How did I bounce that check? How did I forget to pay that bill? Or whatever the situation is that's in your face that you don't really prefer, you wouldn't really like to have, right? Remember that you're doing this excavation process from like a third-party observatory position. In other words, don't get your emotions and all of that hooked into it. Just observe. Oh, yes. Point being, I did forget to make that payment. What are you going to do about it now? You can't change history, but you can change what you do from here on out. You can do whatever you need to do, write it on your calendar or whatever, to make yourself remember things perhaps that you're forgetting. So what you're doing is breaking the pattern of going, oh yeah, well that's just me. You see, if you dive into, oh well, that's just the way I am. It's in my genes, or that's the way I was raised. What are you doing? You are evidencing. You are putting yourself in the victim stage, which is the most immature spiritual stage you can house. When you go into the point of denial or pointing the finger at somebody else, or, oh, well, I can't help it, that is the victim stage, and we don't want to revert to that. We want to move up into those 4 stages of spiritual development, spiritual growth. So I remember last week I shared with you, because we're doing the basics of Science of Mind, I wanted to tell you about, and I said it verbally, our teaching symbol, which is a big circle. And I even said, oh, maybe I'll bring my chart up here and I'll draw it. Well, I didn't do that, but what I did do is I brought with me this morning a piece of paper that shows it. And it's a round circle. It's pretty basic. It says spirit, conscious mind, or creator up at the top. Like I said, it kind of reminds you of a beach ball because it's round and it's got 3 horizontal sections. And that middle section is what we're talking about today. This is the subjective. This is the law. And then down at the bottom is what is manifested in our lives. That's the effect. That's our demonstration. And the V is how conscious, the spirit, the energy of God comes down through that law and comes out into expression. So that's our teaching symbol. That's helps us make sense of the infinite and how this whole thing works. And so it's just a helpful way to say, oh yeah, everything starts with God. It's perfect, it's law, it's love, it's glory. The whole thing is God. But we have to kind of break it down to make sense of it. That middle section being law is what we're talking about today, the subjective, where we really are not aware of it. We like to equate it to the soil, like when you put a seed, when you put the seed and plant it in the soil, it's down there in the dark. We really don't know what's going on there. But somehow or another, if we water it and we give it certain requirements, give it light and give it all this, and what happens? Oh, it springs forth. It comes up as an effect. But in that darkness, in that soil, it's God stuff happening that we literally, in our conscious mind, can't figure out. As humans, we put ourselves in a belief system that is subconscious. We don't know it. We don't realize it. And that's why we're digging down, excavating, and finding out, what is it that I really believe? And being honest and open and receptive to hearing the answer. And letting ourselves then make a choice of if we want to change or not. I talked about earlier, just a minute ago, the 4 stages of spiritual growth, and I wanted to tell you about those. I found another piece of paper. Does this look familiar to anybody? Oh, look at here. I wonder where Tomas went. He went to go get our teaching symbol. Ta-da! It's back where you...
Backwards.
There you go. Yeah. We have that up in our office. Thank you, dear.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. So we are talking now about the 4 stages of spiritual growth. I'll behave myself and not knock the lectern over. Okay. So the 4 stages of spiritual growth start with the lowest level is the victim stage, and that life is happening to me. Life appears governed by external forces. We have no control. Why does this always happen to me, is what we ask. And we have no will. When we become aware and when we come into like a teaching of science of mind, we recognize that there is something that we can do, and we don't have to live in the victim stage, and we can go into what we call the manifester stage, where we recognize that I'm not a victim. I have dominion. I have authority. I can direct my thoughts and my intentions. And so this is now that my will is that I am doing to life, to it. I'm in charge. We use affirmations, we use visualizations, we use treasure mapping. We make effective, specific treatments, which we call prayers. And I can control my thoughts and my life. Woohoo, I'm in control. It's my will. That's the 2nd level of spiritual maturity. We want to move beyond that to the 3rd level, which is being the vessel. And it's through me, the channel. We work on and allow that level to come forth through us through means of meditation, through means of being receptive and open, that we are the vehicle through which Spirit speaks. And it is not I, but the God that does the work, and it is thy will. And for every one of these levels that we move through, and again, it's not linear, we're going to bounce back to being a victim at one point or another, if some circumstance hits us. But we give up something all along the way in order to manifest the next level. The first one, when we move from victimhood into manifesture, we need to give up blame. We need to give up shame. We need to give that up. Let it go. When we go into the manifestor stage and we're in control and we're chugging along and we're doing what we want to do, if we want to get to the third level, we have to give up control. We have to give that up. And the fourth level is as me. Unity, oneness. The Father and I are one. I am that I am. Now, that is a goal that for many, most of us is a challenge to get to. The master teacher, Jesus the Christ, did it. And he showed us and he told us, if you do the things I do, these things and more you can do. So it's not impossible. We all can have that. And when we move into that level of spiritual maturity, we have to give up the ego and separation. Give up that ego mind saying, I am separate, I have to make it, I have to do it on my own. Let it go. Let it go and see and trust. See, that's what we're actually talking about this morning, even though, yes, we're talking about the subjective, but when you're moving beyond that, you want to let go and know that there is something moving through me that is doing a fantastic job. Do you think that you could have made the creation of this earth? Just think about your body and all of the different things that are going on in it at this very moment and how it adjusts. I took care of my little granddaughter last night, and she's coming down with a cold. And when she sneezed, I have this little saying I was raised with. I don't know if many of you were raised with it, but when you sneeze, say, God bless us and save us, said Mrs. Davis. And she started laughing. Now I got sidetracked on her, and I'm not quite sure where I was going. But we were going through these stages of life. I know what it is this life is gift. And we're living it. We're letting, if we can trust and let go and let it live through us, oh my gosh, it's fabulous. It's wonderful. Now, we need to set the intention. Set the intention to feel that unity, that oneness with the good, with the whole, with the love. And that's why, we talk about the denials and the affirmations as a training tool. These are the training wheels that we use to say the affirmations. I am healthy, wealthy, and wise. I am da 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 da. And yet, one of my main spiritual teachers says we use affirmations because we don't believe it. And there's a point to that. And I shared with it in my thought for the week, is that we can say it on the surface, but until we embody that affirmation, it's just lip service. And until we can go into the subconscious beliefs that we have that might be opposing that affirmation, our conscious mind will win out. I wanted to share another portion of this thought for the week because I feel it's important. I know the subjectives is there, but I want to get beyond that. I want to get through that. Here is when we need to allow the Holy Spirit to intercede for us. Here is where we need to remember, it is the Father within that does the work. I of myself can do nothing. When we trust and know God is working through our lives, we become supple, changeable, trusting. The Christ told us, it is done unto as you believe. Our belief needs to be firmly established on our God power within, regardless of the evidence we see around us. The Christ told us to judge with right judgment. That means to know the truth that only God, only love, only peace is here. It is good. And yes, there are times when it's messy and it's not fun. And that's the way life works. I was inspired to write that thought for the week after I read, I have my daily readings that I do. Richer Living is one that I've rediscovered on my shelf, and poor thing, it's really coming apart, literally. But I wanted to share with you one of the readings that I had earlier this week. Be careful, not lose any papers. It's, "My faith makes me whole." Faith is a mental attitude. A certain man came to Jesus, and from the inspiration of his hope and the enthusiasm of the occasion, standing in the light of one whose wick of life was ever kept trimmed and burning, feeling the warmth and glow of its eternal glow, exclaimed, "I believe." This was a simple, sincere, and enthusiastic response to the consciousness of one who had faith. But no sooner had he exclaimed, "I believe," out of the enthusiasm of his will to believe, than the old thought patterns arose to block his faith, and he said, "Help thou mine unbelief." Faith then is more than an objective statement. Perfect faith cannot exist while there are subjective contradictions that deny the affirmation of the lips. It is only when the intellect is no longer obstructed by negative reactions arising from experiences of doubt and fear that the words of the mouth can immediately bear fruit. Do you see that? To release the doubt, to have the faith, to release the fear. And then he goes here and he gives, this is like an Ernest Holmes thing, he gives several affirmations. "I believe with a deep inward calm that my word of faith is the execution of spiritual law in my life. I have absolute reliance upon the law of good. I believe that the law of good will bring everything desirable into my experience. Today I proclaim my divine inheritance. I am rich with the richness of God. I am strong with the power of God. I am guided by the wisdom of God. I am held in the goodness of God today." It takes training ourselves. It takes knowing that. It takes accepting it to feel that divine energy and allow it to live through us. One of the tools that we use to move ourselves up through these levels of spiritual maturity is that of meditation. And meditation is quieting that monkey mind, quieting all the to-do lists, and being open and receptive to listening. And sometimes we go into meditation with a question, and it's okay to ask in meditation. Show me. How do I proceed in whatever the situation is? And then be quiet and listen and see what happens. It's amazing how much inspiration God will give us when we are quiet and receptive. And earnestly, that's one of the words that Michael Beckwith uses when you meditate, to be earnest in your request, to I want to know how this Spirit is going to work through this situation, because I know it's going to be fabulous. I had a situation that I've been dealing with now for a while. It's a silly. It's something that I want to have done in the property. I'd like to have this tree trimmed. You know, it's nothing monumental, but I'd like to have this tree trimmed. And I got a quote to get the tree trimmed. It was $2,200. Well, and I saw that woke you up. Yeah. And I thought, well, I'm not going down that route, am I? But I still had it, and so I just decided, you know what, I guess I can live with a tree. But I still had this yearning, this desire to have the tree trimmed. And it's amazing how circumstances presented themselves in a matter of, well, it was during the course of the day, Friday morning through till about Friday at 6 p.m., somewhere in there. The whole thing manifested to have the right person do the job at the right price, at the right time. It was like, boom, like that. Those kind of things are orchestrated by Spirit. There's no way I of myself could have done that, because it took all these little pieces coming together at just the right time. It's like God making a baby. All of those little pieces have to come together at just the right time, and boom. It's amazing what this life is. So every morning, I have my readings, and one of the things that I say is a prayer that was written, I think, in the 1500s, long time ago, by Innikat Khan. Its title is, I had to look this up because it's not spelled the way it's said, but it's Chatham. It's the way it's pronounced, is Chatham. And that means that it's a Hindu word that means conclusion, seal, and end. And it just helps me set the tone for the day. O thou who art the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, life Lord of heaven and earth, open our hearts that we may hear thy voice, which constantly comes from within. Disclose to us thy divine light, which is hidden in our souls, so that we may know and understand life better. Most merciful and compassionate God, give us thy great goodness. Teach us thy loving forgiveness. Raise us above the distinctions and differences that divide. Send us the peace of thy divine Spirit and unite us all in thy perfect being. To me, that's something that helps me set the tone for the day. And it's a practice. It's a practice to remember, to remember, to remember. I was going through my files, coming up with information for the talk. And I have a class that I give every so often when we have enough new people coming in, and we do a discovery class. So that we meet like 3 or 4 hours, and go over some of the basics of science of mind. And if that fits for you, then you can become into membership into our church. And I had to laugh. I just had to laugh because I've gotten to the point where I'm organizing my files where I can actually find them. And so I had the discovery class. I have like A, B, C, D, E, all through the alphabet, right? So I had the discovery class filed under the D, correct? And so I'm found through it, like, okay, what else is in here? And so, and this is a pretty thick folder. I bet this is the one that it is, but it was turned backward, so I couldn't see the label on it. And so I pulled it out. This is the discovery class. And I pulled it out and looked at it, and it said, divorce info. And I thought, how funny. I'm looking for the discovery class, and I'm discovering the divorce information. Any event. So in my discovery class information, I found a gem that I had literally forgotten about. I had tucked it in this folder, but I don't really use it in my discovery class. But we're going to have a new class on this, because this is fabulous. It's one that I took in 2004. It's called Embracing the Journey. And at the very last of it, it's got this, and you know me, I've told you I don't know how many times, I'm a list maker. I love to make lists so that I can check them off. This is a list of spiritual practice to-do list. And it goes down, and you evaluate yourself. Well, where I'm at now, and what am I willing to add to my regime, to my practice, so that I can move myself up the levels of spiritual maturity. And the first one is prayer. Daily prayers for myself, daily prayers for others. Do I say grace before meals? Do I thank God for all the blessings I've received? Meditation, daily chanting, daily visualization, daily meditation. Education, reading scriptures, taking classes, teaching classes. Intention, develop a life purpose and vision. Set spiritual intentions, set personal intentions. Affirmations, avoid criticism of myself and others. How many of you still have your purple bracelets going? What day are you on? Do you know the day you're on? 3. Speak well of myself and others. Act in accordance with spiritual principles. Practice harmlessness with others and with myself. Self-observation. Keep a journal of meaningful experiences. Record and analyze my dreams. I wish I could know what my dreams are. Oh my gosh, are they crazy? Service. Serve my church in some way. Serve my community. Allow myself to be served. Tithing. 10%. Regular financial gifts to spiritual source. Working towards the practice of tithing. Committed to practice of tithing. Prayer partnering. Pray regularly with a partner. See a practitioner when needed. See a practitioner regularly. Keep good company. Well, see, you're all here. Attend church services regularly. Participate in a support group. Participate in spiritual groups. Socialize with spiritually minded individuals. And every one of these has like a blank line underneath it where you fill in what you want to do on it. So we're here to move forward in life, to be this infinite expression, literally, that we are. And we can't potentialize and actualize our potential if we don't get with the plan, play the game, get on the program, do what needs to be done. There's all these things. So don't be afraid to do a little excavation this coming week and dig down into these hidden agendas that we have in our subconscious. And when something pops up, just be willing to say, okay, Lord, what is it that I can learn from this? How can I move through this and beyond it? And be willing. I'd like us to close to this morning with pulling out the program. And let's read together the bottom of that thought for the week again. I am an individual expression and avenue through which love shows itself in the world. I am willing to know this truth and trust that all things work together for good for those who love the Lord or law. My love is deep and pure. I am so blessed, and I give thanks, and it is so. Namaste.